Welcome back. Now we have to chase down Jadeface. Thankfully this giant hall is equipped with floor escalators. We've been on a couple of these before in the Mechonis and in various other areas, but I really wish that there were more throughout this layout. Because one of the things to me that makes the Mechonis not fun to run around is it's impressively large and has impressively large spaces, and obviously reflects the fact that they build both huge mechons and constructions and a huge amount of all of them, which is all well and good. But the size of the spaces, coupled with the fact that a lot of it's repetitive and undecorated and very few areas are unique, means that running around at normal speed, you get the initial sense of being impressed by the size and scale, but then you actually have to run through everything and it's not that fun, especially coupled with the amount of do this 3 times they've shoved in it to kind of pad it out. I feel like if maybe they'd had more of those floor escalators. Also, as a note, one of our next boss fights will be Landau Calrissian. But I feel like if we had more of those floor escalators, they could keep the size of everything, but really cut down on the amount of boring running, repetitive mooching.
This is the central factory within the chest of the Mechonis. Can you see the ring up ahead? At the base of that ring is a transporter that leads to Agniratha. We must first head there. This place is full of autonomous security, Mechon. Tread carefully.
Okay, I have done a lot of editing in this section, and if there are places where you find yourself thinking, okay, I don't follow how we got from A to B, it's actually because it doesn't matter. Some parts I've either sped up or cut out because they are purely repeats. We're going to be running around a shulk to speed things up a bit. And I'm not going to be stopping to kill much because we are level appropriate. And the enemies are, there's only 4 or 5 different ones. There's only one standout enemy that I will be stopping later on to show you guys, which is kind of cool, but the rest of them, you've seen me kill tens of them at least already. Even the uniques are purely named, rather than actually being different. And, there's not much point really. You can tell that this area is padding. I can't actually remember if I mentioned it before, but none of the descriptions have any detail or depth in them. They purely boil down to a huge series of this thing is broken, find a way to fix it, or this thing is broken, find a different longer way. Whereas before, even with side quests with simple things being broken or missing or needing this, you always got a bit of flavour text and something to do, and it very rarely sent you to an area to tell you it was broken and then send you somewhere else. You'd be told outright things were broken, so you could get straight on with the fixing. Whereas here, there's a lot of padding. This is one of the uniques I was mentioning before, who doesn't really do anything special. He's just a beefed up version of the other ones, and we get an affinity coin if we kill him. And in case you've forgotten, affinity coins are coins you get every time you level up, every time you kill a unique, that you can spend to use passive skills that your other characters have. So you can, if you have enough affinity coins, you can steal each other's skills. And these are skills that everyone levels up with a special type of XP we've been gaining from battles. Okay, here you get to see me be very confused by railings. Because although Shulk is a scientist, and I am blaming Shulk for this, he doesn't get out much. You know, the whole invading the Mechonis, seeking revenge thing has really been a big deal for him. It's one of the big first times that we've left the lab. Hey! We pressed a button that revealed loads of faces that we're not going to fight. And I don't mean this in a skipped it way, I mean they're just going to hang out there, we're not going to fight them. I skipped out killing these guys as well, because they're not unique and we've fought most of them before. But they were guarding a cockroach, and I thought that was very important to show you that I rescued him. Tiny gilded cockroach. I imagine that if I was a Mechon working here, I'd find it an absolute nightmare with all of this stuff constantly broken, and you know, your little Mechon lanyards, you know, your cards don't work, and oh, it's a huge, and all the big ones, they're probably like, yeah, whatever, I'll just climb up the side. But think of all the tiny dudes. Tiny dudes who'd have to run around and fix things. It's badly run here. We need to be in the south section of this area. This is the most skippy section. Because despite being a very well equipped group with a bunch of scientists in and loads of technology and items on us, we have to kill 3 very specific Mechon to build a bomb. Because the only way we can get through that thin metal is with a bomb, and not with the guns, swords, big magical MacGuffin Monado. Nope, Mechon bomb. And to do that, only these 3 Mechon have the right parts, and they only appear when we scratch our chins and go, yeah, we should bomb this. There's nothing really special about them apart from the fact that they only appear once you've triggered the quest. They each drop a unique item. And some trousers. The next one's in the middle. Nice thing about this area is where there aren't hand railings, flexing Shulk, we can punt stuff off. And when we do that and you punt it out of the fight, it dies. I actually spent a good amount of time using punty skills in areas where I couldn't avoid fights, just to poke Mechon off the edge. Because if it happens to our characters, they just pop back up. The game doesn't penalise you for being ring out, Ted. Is that the... I don't play a lot of fighting games or do a lot of ring fighting in real life. Is it a ring out? It's not a ring in. Anyway, this dude has another bomb part we need. But again, nothing special about him apart from that. I've still got Charlotte in the party, so we can get up some more affinity with her. Because as I mentioned before, those unique coins that are used to buy the passive abilities that the rest of the party have. And I mean party as in all of the characters, not just the 3 active ones. You can use passives from any character, as long as you're friends enough with them. And the more friendly you are with people, the more of their passives you can use or choose to not use instead of being forced not to use. So really doing a lot of the extra quests and the... what are they called? Oh, it's been so long. Talky nice, make a big heart happen. Chats. Heart to hearts, that's what they are. The more of those that you do, the more powerful you can all get, because you get to share and swap those special passive abilities. This fight actually took me a few goes to do, because I did the thing where, to try and skip a couple of fights and to save time, I ended up making it take twice as long, because there's a few more mechon around here. There's a couple on some pathways above us. Suspended God, I've just forgotten every word ever. Anyway, mechon dudes above us can shoot at us and have been plinking away at us. And instead of just taking the 30 seconds or so to go up and kill them, I was really determined that I would just run straight into this fight and do it first time without worrying about anything else, and it took me way longer than it should have, because I had to come in and kill some of his extras, and then I died, and then I came in and killed some more of his buddies, and then I died, and then really if I'd just done it properly it would have been, you know, half the time. But now we can go back to the bomb gate after I get confused by maps. Oh no, I remember. Not only does it want you to run around to collect the bomb parts, but we also have to go back on ourselves to use a piece of mechon equipment that we've never seen before and don't know what it does. But apparently this is integral to using these mechon parts we've also never seen and making them into a bomb. Whereas if you ask me, super glue would have done it. But all of this mashed together means we now have a big old hole to go through. I do like the way they've included lots of climbing areas in the game though that aren't just ladders. I mean, in that case it's a bit oddly designed, because, you know, it's not the design of a ladder, it's just a piece of support, but it is only in the place of a ladder, if that makes sense. It's not blended in particularly well to the areas and I can climb on it. It's obviously there as a ladder, but it's not drawn as a ladder. I don't know if most of the things I say make sense to anyone apart from me. But do they have to? I'm happy enough. I speak nonsense, I'll put it on YouTube, someone will watch it, people will pretend they understand, it's all good. Whoever was naming the mechon in this area shared my opinion of this section, I believe. Apologise for this now, we have the world's worst piece of editing coming up, because the next section was just basically, or not basically, it was literal repeats of what we've just done. So I decided to, after killing these guys and showing off the big red glowy suspended walkways room, which I know you were all desperate to see, I just skip ahead. Yeah, it's not a good transition really. I think the rest of the episode was so awkward to put together and try and find any fluidity in that I just went, fuck it. At one point I was like, I just want this done. But we're almost really close to finding the only properly working elevator in the entirety of the Mechonis. I imagine this is like the part in Despicable Me 2, when all of the minions have been kidnapped and Gru wants to know where Kevin is because he can't get the Wi-Fi working and everything's broken and behind schedule. So here we've got the Mechon of Head Out on a huge incursion to try and start up a war again. But everything back at base is just broken. But they've got no one to fix it. Their version of Kevin, the Wi-Fi guy, he's off on Sword Valley starting a fight. This is another fight where we fight. These aren't unique Mechon, they've just got a lot of health. But the anti-Mechon weapons we picked up earlier, and I got one for everyone. They're really useful because it's the first stage in the game where you don't have to sacrifice a huge amount of health to be able to damage Mechon from the off. And Mechon aren't scaled to take into account the fact that you're most likely going to be using powered down weapons. They are kept scaled with normal enemies to make it clear and to maintain that they are more difficult because of their special effect, because they can't be hit with normal weapons, and that you do have to make a sacrifice to be able to hurt them. But we can put them on the floor and tickle them. I do spend most of the game fighting rather carelessly because I can play quite quickly. I will find there are numerous special side quest baddies that I will find and beat and show more careful, considered ways to play and go through, especially the max cap in this game is standard, you cap at 100, but enemies don't. And as we've seen before, as enemies get higher level than you, not only do they have more health and do more damage, but they're harder to hit in the first place and they're harder to dodge. So it's not a linear curve. But I will be showing off how to take on those much higher level enemies where you have to be really careful about how you group people, what skills you use, how you kit them out, what gems you use, and you really have to the battle system as far as you can instead of just mashing buttons. But for now I like mashing. Mash tasty.
Advance, Nopon heroes!
I see you finally decided to show up. Let's see if we can bust these rust buckets like last time.
Think we can do it?
We'll get them. With this many troops on our side, we don't even need Shulk's help.
You're telling me you're more worried about the kid's schedule? Kinda soft for you, Thorin.
Shut up! Get moving!
Division 4, defend the barrier. Division 6, assist any wounded Hans.
Bring it on! These high-entier may be a bunch of sissies, but they've got some pretty nifty gear!
That idiot! He'll get his head knocked off at this rate! Ha!
Keep it up! Show everyone the power of the Nopon! Go, Nopon, go! Fight like a Herapon, Ricky!
It appears we have gained the upper hand.
Sire, if we hold our current position, a great victory is within our grasp.
It is still too early to come to that conclusion. The enemy still has hidden forces.
Your Highness, Enemy reinforcements approaching from above. It's a face squadron.
They're here. Divisions 1 to 3, continue supporting the Homs and encircle the faces.
Your Highness, think of yourself!
Once the Vanguard has been eliminated, we must join the fight. Better that than die as cowards. Move!
Ha! Stick this in your exhaust pipe and smoke it! Who hasn't had a taste yet? Eat this! Should have stayed at home, lousy junk bots.
They're doing rather well. I do so enjoy a good show. But they have yet to unleash their power and fulfill their true potential.
Deadbeat drones! Come out and face us like real machines! I'll sort out the lot of you, scum!